Welcome to The Fix. Sit down with copywriting experts Nick O'Connor and Glenn Fisher as they review, discuss, and improve real-world copy sent in by you. This is The Fix.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Fix. In about 90 minutes time, Glenn and I are going to be hosting one of our regular social events here in Manchester. But we thought, instead of just relaxing for 90 minutes or so before it's time to meet all of our Fix Accelerator members for a drink, we would sit in our hotel room and record another episode of The Fix. So that's what we're going to do. Glenn has some copy that he's going to read aloud, which he's going to do now. Don't read that. That's just free advertising for the hotel, which, if anything, it's not what we want to do. We're not about free advertising. We're free reviews of advertising. Begin.
Okay, we have a headline complex. Actually, an eyebrow will start at the top. It says, specially designed for career professionals, digital creators, experts, and entrepreneurs / business owners. And the headline reads, sustainably retire earlier than you have ever imagined with this conversion sold out scheme. To sustainably retire early enough, you need to set up a lifetime cash flow system. Setting up such a cash flow system requires you to harness a huge amount of money. A cash flow system is simply a system that earns you money even when you are no longer actively working or you have retired. Making successful investments that cumulatively yield a lifetime sustainable ROI, in brackets, return on investment, provides you with such a system. But let's face reality. If a pandemic worse than the one that happened in 2019, in brackets COVID-19, should surface again and forcibly retire you from that job or business you've spent several years of hard work on, what would be your fate? With all your wealth of knowledge and experience, would your earnings so far be enough to set up a lifetime cash flow system that will sustain such forceful retirement? If you answered no, then it's an error. Yes, you heard me right. I'm going to stop there.
Plenty
far into the copy there and close the computer.
Yeah.
Are we committing that to memory?
Just about. So, I would say this is a piece of copy where we can apply a sort of review framework we've used lots and lots and lots of times before. And that is to say, what is it you're really trying to say? What are we really trying to sell here? And the overarching idea, I would say, is the idea of retiring early. That's what it is. I feel like if that's what we're trying to sell, that's our end goal.
Yep.
We need to show the reader how they can go from where they are today to this really crisp, clear picture of an early retirement, and then say to them, I'm going to show you how you get there.
Picture is the word.
Yeah.
Because I can't see anything about it.
Or perhaps, I mean, we talk about picture a lot, but perhaps just destination is in this case a better phrase to use, a better word to use. We actually talked about that quite a lot in previous copy that we reviewed, where it's like we need to give them that really clear idea of where it is they're going, and the writer themselves needs to be really clear. I'm taking you to this place in your life, and then draw a really clear picture of that. That doesn't quite come across it. It just says early retirement, and then we actually spend too long in this piece of copy talking about the fairly logical, fairly prosaic steps it takes to get to that place.
And what the system is defining stuff before we even got to that.
It's too much journey, not enough destination. And I think that's something that we see in lots of people's copy a lot of the time, whether it's getting a job, retiring early, getting more work acting. That's a piece of copy that we reviewed for Fix Accelerator members. Growing your business, growing your community, doing whatever. Right up top, we actually don't want to talk about the journey. We want to talk about the destination. We want to contrast where you are today with that that destination. And then we want to introduce, and I'm going to come back to this, how we get from A to B.
Yeah, the how. So at the moment, what I remember of that headline, and you can do this as an exercise yourself, the nature of us putting that copy down, I'll give Nick the specific challenge for try and think first. What was that little hyphenated thing at the end of the headline which described essentially what the product was? I think it began with C, but I can't quite remember.
Like cash flow system with a high
It was like
ROI.
it was something like convenient, like a word with I's and E's and stuff. My point being is that you can't remember what that phrase was. I can't remember what it was. I'm the one raising the question. I doubt you probably can remember what it was. That is just a very visual. I know it's a little bit patronizing, but it just shows you. I can't remember what the headline said. If I paint a picture, I can remember what the picture showed me where I am. If I show the destination, or I know it's me, this is a cliche, but sat on the beach with my laptop, you can at least see that.
Which is why that's a cliche.
Which is why that's been used so many times. What was going on there is that headline complex, instead of showing you the destination, painting a picture for you, telling about, it was using the actual product and gave it kind of a name. I remember it. I remember that much. It was like, because I was looking from a critical point of view, but I can't remember what the name of that was. Now, that's immediately gone out of my mind, and that's what naturally happens when we flash a piece of copy up in front of ourselves and go, right, what can I remember? I remember the word system because it kept saying that quite a lot. I remember that there's something to do with retirement and spare income. I remember it's an idea that if there's crap happens to you, COVID and pandemics and all this kind of stuff, have you got enough money? Why does that ring a bell? Because that's emotional, because that gets me like, oh yeah, okay, I understand that fear. But I can't remember the headline complex. You need to be able to remember a headline complex. One of the tips I would give you, when you write a headline, delete it, and then try and write it again. And keep doing that process over. Write, delete, repeat is the kind of way to think about it. You just write it, delete it, and then repeat what you've done to see if you can, the bits that you remember.
And if you can't, actually, that's a really good one. If you can't recall, so sometimes people, when you have an idea, you walk down the street, you think of something, you're in a restaurant or a bar or whatever, you have a conversation with somebody, you think of a great idea. And your instinct actually is to write it down as quickly as you can before you forget it. And sometimes that's the right way of doing things. But there is an argument to say that the really good stuff,
it comes through.
Well, you won't forget it.
Yeah.
That's in it by its very nature. And so I'm going to use an example from a different sphere. So I was listening to, actually, it's quite fitting since we're in Manchester. I was listening to an interview with Noel Gallagher, the songwriter from Oasis. And he talks about thinking of melodies, thinking of lyrics, and thinking of tunes or whatever, and saying, well, you'll remember the good ones. If it's that good, I don't write it down. It'll stay there in my mind or somewhere, just trusting your instincts. And although there's a huge element of risk to that, because you worry that, what if I can't remember it? Actually, the really compelling stuff will stick. And that was quite a long headline complex with a lot going on. The chances of you being able to recall all of that.
Yeah. Oh, you're speaking.
Once more.
You're speaking to for me, that is I have historically not made a lot of notes in life. I don't keep diaries or anything like that. Yet I write an enormous amount because I've trusted myself up until now. I'm getting a bit older now, so I have to
You might jot something down.
Yeah, but ultimately I have lived off that idea that the good stuff will find its way through because you keep coming back to it. It gets you. However, don't take that as read. I've now started making notes, so I don't. But I only make the note usually when I've had it a few times in my head. I'm like, I need to remember that one. Yeah, keeps coming back.
Phrase or that
keeps coming back. Weirdly, I've got a character in my head called Mr. Frinzinki. I love the sound of the word Frinzinki. So I wrote that. I was like, I remembered it 3 or 4 times. I was like, I need to write that down because I'm not ready to deal with that yet. Yeah, but I want that in my head. But the point being, I can still think it now because I can see that character.
Right, so I think that is certainly true of this piece of copy. And those two ideas that we talked about destinations and trying to make that headline a little bit punchier, and they actually work together because what doesn't work for me in that particular piece of copy, okay, so it's clear about what it's selling. So I think it's sustainable early retirement. Okay, that That would be stronger if it was more specific, so you could say, how to retire in 7 years or less, or whatever it might be. But you want to hit them with the idea that it is possible to retire early. What might that look like? You probably don't need to get into the rationality of it so quickly. So quite quickly, that piece of copy said, sustainably retire early. And then say, well, to do that, what do you need? You need cash flow. You need a large amount of money. One, I know those things to be true. Two, that's how. So how do you get there? I'm not clear on the destination yet. In fact, great copy works when it presents a destination. Could be, in the Agora world, it might be prediction about the world. It might be about, the hash points running dry, or a huge AI boom, or whatever. It might be about my life, but it might be about
completely different. In a TV advert, a holiday, it will put you on the beach.
It doesn't show you packing.
No, it shows you there enjoying it, frolicking with the family coming down the slide.
Destination. Now, in the spheres in terms of copy that we write, usually you draw that destination out. That where are we going? What does this trend lead to? What are we going to see? And then you create a gap where how can I get from where I am now, from where the world is now, to that world that you're drawing to me? That creates a gap, and into that gap we can sort of slip our product, so to speak, or our unique selling proposition, or our mechanism, whatever.
Sliding.
We can slide it. We can slip into their DMs. No, we can slip our product into your knowledge gap. No, but we've bought we're in a bedroom with a camera, but we're definitely not, almost certainly going to record a
The rest of the day.
So we need to create that gap, and then because that's what allows us the space to say, so how is it possible to get from here, where you are now, to this destination that I had drawn out for you? Because once our reader is thinking, how is that possible? They're then ready to hear about, well, to do this, I wouldn't even say you need cash flow. You say that's probably where you have some sort of unique mechanism. There is a way of doing this without having a ton of whatever that might be.
Your unique mechanism, which I think is a useful phrase to have and think about. I feel like this headline is top loaded with that. It's not quite found a good way to say it quite yet, or the best way to say it, but it's too much of that focus. And I think for the writer who's looking at this, think away from that for now and get into an emotional register. We are in the very much a logic place at the moment, where everything is illogical. Sound logic, this is a problem, saying true, but people don't react to that. You can tell people all day long, you need to put away for your pension, you need to do this, you need to do that. They're not listening until you get them emotionally, and then you can shift the register and go into the logic thing to justify why they want that emotional picture, why they want to be there, why they're feeling like, why they're putting the answers for you. Let the reader do that work for you. That's what you're really talking about, is saying, if you put them there, they'll actually start going, hey, how do we do that? And now they're leaning in and asking you questions.
They're open to it. So a piece of copy like this would probably function by making that destination clearer, contrasting out from where you are now to where you could be, probably then backing that up with a story, somebody who's walked that path, who's gone from A to B, maybe more than one person. Then you're probably going to bring in some proof. We talked about COVID. Well, that's made it even harder to go from A to B, to have that early retirement, whatever. So you can up the stakes using a bit of proof. Then you're probably going to make the reader a proposition. What if it was possible to retire much, much sooner than you ever thought possible? Yada, 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 yada. Well, now it is, and then we can get into what our mechanism might be. I think it could be tweaked around a little bit. I still wouldn't say you just need to save a lot of money, because you're not save a lot of money and generate income. Well, I know that. Everybody knows that, so that's not quite new. But I'm still way more open to that message if you've shown me where we're going. I just think sustainably retire early doesn't work hard enough to make.
I don't know like certain things. Sustainability is like the go-to requirement for a lot of clients right now. They need that in their copy, and I don't know what industry this particular piece is in, which is probably a tell that it needs a bit more sensitivity in it. But if you have to write that stuff, you can't just write the word sustainability. You have to kind of go that in different ways. But I think that's a different.
I would say, as a general rule, across any piece of copy, don't use the word sustainable.
No.
Because I mean, some things may be sustainable. I don't know whether or not this copy is or not. But just by virtue of the fact that everybody's saying it, everybody's doing it, it's almost like one of those words, we were talking earlier about 10x. Everything is 10x. 10x this, 10x that, sustainable this, sustainable that. These words are just noise in the industry. They're being used by everybody and therefore they mean nothing. They may as well be used by everybody. They're just white noise. We don't want to be noise. We want to be the signal within the noise. So your job as a copywriter, if you have to talk about sustainability or if you have to talk about 10xing, is to say that in a way that feels fresh. It should feel like spring after winter, It should make you feel like, oh, that's interesting. That's the way they've said that. Yeah, you might not be able to make a different claim to everybody else if you're talking about 10x or sustainability or retire early, but we do need to come up with the freshness, and we do need to try and strive to say it in the same way. I've got a friend who's a copywriter who loves using the word erupt. It's erupting. And I get why he likes it. It's in financial markets. It's this idea of energy. And, when a share price takes off, it does look, like an eruption. But I'm constantly saying, but if you've used it so many times, it no longer means anything. It no longer has any of those resonances that you originally liked about it. So you have to push yourself to find that fresh way of saying something. So we've actually given a lot of advice here, but I've just boiled it down to make sure you're writing about destination and not journey.
Yeah.
If you can't remember it, or if you've got a long and unwieldy headline, delete it all and see what you can remember of it, because I bet it's 10% of what you go.
Delete, repeat.
I love that. I've never actually done that. Delete the whole thing, or open a new Word doc.
Yeah.
And see what you can write out. Yeah. Or go in a different room and by hand say, what was that headline again? And see if you can write it out.
That's the thing, is trying to remember.
Dredge it up.
What was the bit that really made me do it? Because you will write different iterations.
And then seek that freshness.
Yeah.
Seek that way of saying something in a new way. That's on a sentence level, on a word selection level. That's a challenge we all face. I mean, I'm someone that writes sort of campaign that I'm 20,000 words. It's really easy to get into the habit of just saying everything the same way because you've got so many words to write. You've got to fight that urge. You've got to try and find the fresh way of saying something, even if it's you're told you've got to talk about sustainability. Okay, how do I talk about that without using the words everybody else is using?
What does it mean? Why? Early tools for that. You want to be asked, well, why? What does it look like? What's that? What are you actually saying when you say that? And just keep digging a little bit further. You probably won't. Most people won't. Remember, the world we live in, as far as copywriting goes, most people won't do the work. So you don't need to do that much more. Just send it in and present yourself as a much better copywriter. So just do the work.
Right. That's enough from us today. We'll be back again with another episode of The Fix sometime in the very near future. In the meantime, send us your copy. We'll review it. As many pieces of copy as you like, free of charge every week in The Fix. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
See you soon.
If you enjoy The Fix and want to get access to even more good stuff, join the Fix Accelerator today. Get access to special masterclasses from Nick and me, watch expert interviews with industry legends, join live copy feedback sessions every week, and get connected to our very own private copy network. Visit thefixaccelerator.com for more information.